Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Optimistic Future podcast. Today, I am pleased to be joined by Lil MacPherson. Lil is the owner of the restaurant called The Wooden Monkey. They actually have two locations, one in Halifax, Nova Scotia, one in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And the Wooden Monkey has been my favorite restaurant in the Halifax area and Dartmouth for close to 15 years now. I love eating there because it's really the only restaurant I'm aware of, at least one of the only restaurants I'm aware of that um, actually regularly has meat that is produced from non-feedlot animals on the menu. They always have on the menu where their meat is sourced from, and maybe a decade ago or so, my family and I made the decision to only consume meat from non-feedlot animals. I know not everyone can, afford to make that decision, or for whatever reason chooses not to make that decision. Of course, that's fine, but it's just something that's important to us. We want the animals that we eat to have the highest quality of life possible and also be as healthy as possible before they wind up on our dinner plate. And so we really appreciate having that as an option. So when we go to eat, we can do that. Um, Over and above that, to my understanding, they use local ingredients, try to make things on the menu that are seasonal, which I think are important choices for environmental reasons, for health reasons as well. So I'll leave it to Lil to talk about, sort of the offerings that they have at their restaurant and why she does what she does. But I was happy to have the opportunity to chat with her today because I just have a bunch of questions about, why does she do what she does? Why have a restaurant like the Wooden Monkey? There's hundreds of other restaurants that seem to be doing well and they don't have that business model. So why has she chosen to go that road less traveled? What are the obstacles to, having a restaurant like that? What are the maybe pros and cons, things like that? So just looking forward to picking her brain, seeing, why she does what she does, and if other restaurateurs who are happen to be listening to this episode are thinking like I'd like to do that too, but maybe it's too big of a challenge, too many hurdles. Well, I'm going to ask her about how folks could make that transition if they were so inclined. One other thing that I'll just quickly mention is that despite the fact that the ingredients that they use are oftentimes organic, coming, animals coming from, non-feedlot farms and whatnot. The price point is not exorbitantly high. It's on par with the other, major restaurant chains that are in our neck of the woods, places like Eastside Mario's and Montana's and different restaurants like that. You're looking at anywhere from, maybe 15 to $30 for an entree. So it's not, like $80 for a meal or something like that. So I'm also going to ask her about, how is it that they can have a very reasonable price point and yet still offering, in my opinion, these, extra high quality ingredients, so to speak. So we'll get into those questions shortly. Just before jumping into the interview, just want to remind folks that the podcast is sponsored by Made Local Charity. Made Local Charity runs a website called madelocalgroup.ca, which features companies that manufacture products in Canada. So all the companies that are featured on there, they actually make their goods here in Canada. And so by doing so, has a positive environmental impact, not shipping things across the ocean from other countries where they might be manufactured, helps us support the local economy, gives jobs to local folks, and then also, very importantly, in my opinion, helps to support the middle class, that long forgotten middle class. As I'm fond of saying, the gigantic corporations that own all the big box stores and everything, like they have enough money. Let's give our money to the middle class folks who are running these small businesses, who are actually making goods locally here, and again, taking the road less traveled as well in that regard. So Made Local Charity, any they there's the madelocalgroup.ca website with those products featured. And so please check that out. If you need to buy something, please consider checking the website first to see, hey, maybe I can buy it, made in Canada first. If you are listening to this episode and you happen to live in the US of A, there's also madelocalgroup.com. And so that features companies that make goods in the US. As a Canadian, try to buy things made in Canada first if possible. If I can't find it made in Canada, I'll buy it made in the US. Again, just a shorter distance to travel, not shipping things from, across the globe. I also have, family members and friends in the US, so I want to, help support them as much as possible with their economy too. So please consider checking out those websites. There's a newsletter option to join to keep abreast of, new listings that are being added. And then also, we're very happy to say that we have some sponsors who have given us some discount codes. So if you check out the website, there's a little tab there at the top that says sponsors, discount codes. So check that out, and you can get some savings on some of those products as well. They match the savings by donating to the charity, and then that's used to fund the website. Any additional proceeds that might be gained from those donations are then passed on to another charity called Second Harvest, which is a registered Canadian charity that rescues food that was otherwise not going to be sold to customers. It was going to be basically destined to be discarded. They rescue that food, give it to food banks. And those food banks then distribute it to folks who are in need. So it's a really wonderful charity to support as well. And we're trying to help them as much as we can by passing on those extra proceeds that we are able to bring in through Made Local Charity. So please consider checking those out. So thank you for considering that. And I'll just pause the recording and I'll be right back with Lil. All right, everyone. Well, I'm now joined by Lil MacPherson. Lil, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. I've got a bunch of questions for you, but just before jumping into the questions, if you wouldn't mind just letting folks know a bit about who you are and why you started up the Wooden Monkey.
Well, my name is Lil MacPherson, and I have a business partner, Christine Bauer. And I started the Wooden Monkey. I'm the founder of the Wooden Monkey. And I started the Wooden Monkey because basically I have a climate change hurricane that hit Nova Scotia almost 20 years ago. It's September 29th, 2003, changed my life. And I sat in the dark when we all did, wondering what am I going to feed my own children, but how we were doing as a province. And it really started to really play on my mind. So I decided to find out. So I started asking farmers and government and anybody that would know how much food we have. Do we have some place to store this food in Nova Scotia? And so I found out that we don't have any place that stores good quality food, any really food. And we have about 3 days of food left. And when I found out that, I just was like blown away. What a terrible business model, what a terrible business plan. It's so food insecure and it's terrifying. And it's like 90% of our food comes from away. So I decided as a waitress, what can I do? So I decided I'm going to open a restaurant that focuses on building back the food systems of Nova Scotia, the processing plants, the slaughtering houses, and because we've lost them. So we it used to be a fluffy thing to talk about, but now it's like, no, we have to build this back, especially with things coming. So that's a long explanation, but that's the reason why the monkey was born. We were born, I want to make a living and make a difference. And our, planet people profit is our triple bottom line, focus. So yeah. And here we are 20 years later. People didn't think I was going to last 6 months.
You've outdone yourself, to say the least. Yeah, wow, that's amazing. I did not know the backstory. In what way is the Wooden Monkey helping to work towards food sustainability or food security, I should say?
Well, we buy from as many farms as possible. So when we first opened the Monkey, I had to run around and find farms. There's no farmers. As a restaurant business, there's only about 2 suppliers for all restaurants. It's like Cisco and maybe a fish producer. It's really just one big truck pulls up and it's the same. You can get the same chicken wings. You don't know where anything's coming from. It's all big factory farming and so there's no local producing list. So we had to go find that. So I had to go find the farmers, which was really, really kind of fun. It was really cool. And I was, going up to farmers and saying, well, how much chicken do you have? This is what I'm doing, and they said, well, I only have enough chicken for 3 months. I said, I'll take it. Great, sold, go get some more chickens, grow some next year. And so I had to piece this crazy supplier list together. And we have now I can say proudly about 14 to 15 farms on board. And we buy from about 40 small suppliers throughout Nova Scotia, from cranberry juice to tofu to all our meat comes from Nova Scotia. And so it's So I think we have a good multiplier effect in from the monkey. We have I don't know if you know this, but it's a really great economic driver. It's called the multiplier effect, which is quite significant throughout Nova Scotia. So our money stays in the province. It's like blood in the body. The more blood you get moving in your body, the more you keep the blood in. Don't cut yourself, because when you cut yourself, the money goes out. Money's like blood to me. So we try to keep the blood moving and as much as possible and as healthy as possible. So yeah, I think we've in 20 years we've doing our best.
Yeah, amazing. And I mean, I'm just wondering with the multiplier effect, like, is it primarily with small farms, or are there other industries that are affected as well with
Yeah,
this?
it is definitely different. It is all industries, but our focus was farm or food. And I read, I've gone to a lot of climate change conferences and gone to some amazing meetings in my life. The Wooden Monkey has completely changed my life. Oh my gosh, it's there's the whole new scoop on that one. But Ontario did a study years ago on the multiplier effect of if every family member, if every family bought just $10 of food a week in Ontario, just $10 of food a week, in 1 year, they would create $2.2 billion in revenue and
Wow.
10,000 new jobs. So the restaurant, I mean, I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm to know that number. I'm very proud. We buy tens and tens of thousands of dollars in local produce, tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Restaurants buy a lot of food. I know that we have a big multiplier effect. I'm very excited about that because when we buy from, all the farmers, they all have employees and they get a paycheck from us and they move on and hopefully they'll buy their food and their things local. And it's just this wonderful local living economy that we're striving for. So it's about food, but it's just about everything. And just small businesses support small businesses. That's where it's at. That's where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like we're like this ecosystem, or kind of like an organism, and yeah, it's great if we can be synergistic with ourselves, so to speak, with each other. We're all, yeah, interconnected for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I did not know that number. That's wild. Yeah, and so I don't know. Like I remember speaking with the gentleman. I can't remember his name now off the top of my head. Who one of the owners of, or maybe the owner of, I think the former Getaway Farms. I think they
Chris.
rebranded. Chris. Yeah,
Yep.
we did chat
Yes.
years ago
Yep.
at the farmers market when it was still doing its thing there. And I think he was saying at the time that, like, the biggest fruit, like the most popular fruit that's purchased in Nova Scotia is bananas. And it's like, really, like, we grow so many blueberries and apples and all these things, and it's like, really, bananas? Like, they are delicious, and I like smoothies as much as the next guy, but wow, that's wild. As I
It's
was quite
wild.
blown away. So yeah, I think just that, building that awareness of, it's like, hey, like, let's make sure that we're supporting the local crops. And, do you know offhand, Lil, like, where your ear to the ground, you have your ear to the ground on this? Like, I know we're going to go apple picking soon. You'll probably hit Noggins
Mhm.
Farms out in Kentville. It's kind of our go-to place to go apple
Yeah.
picking. Many good options out there, just where we tend to go every year, creatures of habit. And I don't know, I noticed there's like fair number of apples on the ground. I've never been there on the last day of apple picking, but do you know, do we use up all the apples that are grown, or is there
Uh,
waste, or I don't know.
there's a lot of waste in Nova Scotia, and it's really, really saddens me to know that that's happening. And because people prefer and grocery stores prefer to buy an apple that's perfect and has no blemishes on it, and to me, those are dangerous to me. I don't want those apples. I don't want my kids to have to eat those apples. But yeah, there's definitely rotting foods in the fields of Nova Scotia. And one of the things that I always talk about that I'd love to have more for Nova Scotia is more root cellars. I mean, real root cellars. I mean, in the day they used to do that, but even commercial root cellars. And, I'm one of these crazy people when I see infrastructure, old infrastructure, new infrastructure, I think, what can we do with that? I see Sindel Hill like a labyrinth of root cellars. Wouldn't that be beautiful? I know as the Wooden Monkey, we would rent we would rent one if they had different, imagine what the tourists going. Imagine that the how people would love. Oh, there's a whole room, so it'd be beautiful. So, I had a gentleman, a farmer, one time call me. This happened a couple times to me. Lil, I have 60 50-pound bags of organic potatoes. 60 50-pound bags. We buy 50-pound bags of potatoes. And I got them, I can't get rid of them. And I'm like, oh my, I definitely want them. I want them, you know? So I said, just hang on. I could not find any place to put these. I could not find any place to store them. They won't work in a garage. They have to be in a certain cooling system. And I just was so frustrated. I had to say no to them. It was just sad. And so that happened with squash. And because I buy a lot of food and I want to buy a lot from farmers. So I'm trying to get it out there for the farmers. Like, just give me a call. Whatever you have, I'll see what I can buy. We'll just cook it. But yeah, it is, we definitely need to do more work when it comes to that.
This is probably a naive question, but do you know offhand if there's ever been any attempt on a government level for like a public awareness campaign to say, hey, like let's buy more stuff from local growers, let's try to support our farmers, not just pay lip service to that, but like encouraging people to go and do this? Has there ever been any attempt at some synergy there that you're
Well, yeah, they do have like, a small thing, buy local and and they talk about farm day but they don't talk about the critical situation we're in as a province. They don't explain about, when I went out in the monkey, I was telling people, look, at some point, because I really felt this hurricane was a climate change hurricane. It scared the crap out of me. And I was 44 at the time, and I opened the restaurant almost like I had a baby. 9 months later, I opened the restaurant. It was crazy. It was like, okay, I got to
Uh-huh.
birth this thing with no money, and they just don't realize the situation we're in. That we, as Nova Scotians, we all sit here and wait for 90% of our food. The outside world, all over the world, that are having problems with climate change and droughts and heat and all this environmental stuff, because climate change affects agriculture, the biggest industry in the world. And so I said, someday we're going to get that phone call saying, sorry, we couldn't give you a complete grocery list because we've had droughts and climate change and hurricanes, and sorry, we're going to keep our own food. And that's, I mean, COVID, that happened with COVID. Our shelves weren't as packed. And
Mhm.
so, there's more to this story. It's very powerful. And I'm really excited just to even talk to you about this, because it's on that's all I talk about.
It's an important thing to talk about. And I
Sure
don't
is.
know. I feel like, if Oprah can say like, hey, buy this book and it's sold out, or Dr. Oz can say, take this supplement and it's all sold out, it's like I just feel like if there was, like, hey, it's something like, I don't know, just a PSA that went out saying like, hey, like there's a lot of apples, like we need to buy these or go buy these because they're gonna rot on the trees. Like I feel like folks would probably do that if they knew. I feel like a lot of it is just people just don't think about it. There's so much to think about in the run of a day, and just thinking about farmers and food supply chains and things, like we take it for granted. Thankfully, like we can take it for granted, I suppose, that we're not living in a place where we're dealing with famine and food shortages. But I feel like just like even just a little bit of awareness for folks would be helpful. But folks listening to this podcast will hopefully be thinking about that. But I don't know, it'd just be really nice if there was a little more awareness. But I don't know, like, do you know of anyone or any groups that are trying to like promote more awareness about
Well,
these things? Like, there's
well,
farmers
we're
associations and things, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, Farm Works, I will say too, to that, years and years ago, we used to have a backdoor policy at all the grocery stores where farmers could come up with a truck and say, I've got a truckload of squash they just took out of the fields. And they would say, great, we'll buy the squash for this much. And that was coming and going all the time. I mean, in the 1950s, we had 23,000 farms. And now we have about 2,700 farms. We lost
Wow.
like 10,000 of farms every 10 years. It was just like,
Wow.
oh my God. So at one point we can feed ourselves. We can be healthier. And the cost, I go to the farmer's market and you do too. And it drives me crazy because people talk about, oh, it's so expensive. It's not. If you go to Pete's Boutique and buy high-end organic stuff, yes, that's going to be more expensive. But go to the farmer's market. I know that Ted Hutton squash is, 20 cents cheaper than the grocery store, and there's no sprays. So it is a really higher quality food you're buying for your family. And it's really, you just have to go. You have to learn how to cook. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, and I love listening to food. Food's my favorite thing in the world. I feel like I'm a food defender because I love to eat. Like, it's the best joy in the world is food, good food.
For sure. Love
But
that.
Joel Salted he tells us that you have to eat 10 carrots of the ones you buy that are sprayed out in a field from, traditional conventional carrots to equal, no, it's seven carrots to one. Now, believe it or not, but I tell you, the taste makes a difference. But the nutritional value is far, far higher quality years ago. And there was a whole big uh, not a study that they did in the 1950s back in France, and they just found this study about how different they measured the nutritional value of food then, and they actually have this. It's amazing. And so like, oh my gosh, look what we've done. So that's a big one.
Yeah, no, it's pretty sad and deplorable, and yeah, it's not good that our food quality is lower now than it was once upon a time. But yeah, I think just again, it's an awareness thing as well. Like I think if you pulled 100 people off the street and said, hey, like if you get this that was ripened on a ship coming from South America or something versus or a truck across from California or something versus something that was grown in your backyard, like I don't know that folks would know that there was a nutritional difference, but yeah, it's.
Well, and the thing is people are always saying to me, well, I tell them too, is, they have a strawberry in the middle of winter, oh, it doesn't taste very good. Well, because it's not, they don't, when anything, when they grow food now for quantity and shipping, not quality and nutrition. And if they pick the strawberry when it's ripened, it would never make it, ever. So they do pick all the produce when it's not quite ripened. So we're eating unripened produce, and so it's a real story that we I think the taste when I first opened the Monkey, it was kind of fun, just even getting ready for the day to open. I was all nervous and hiring new chefs and cooks, and this one cook, when he goes, Lel, you got to come in here and you got to see this lettuce. And I said, oh yeah, no, I'm busy. I know what lettuce looks like. No, 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 you got to come in because, and I went in, he goes, look, the lettuce is standing up. I'm like, I know. He goes, it's so fresh. I said, because it was just cut like an hour and a half ago. He couldn't believe it. He said, there's oils on the peppermint mint. I said, I know. And he just was so excited to see real food. He was, I come from fast food nation. I come from that world. I come from McDonald's. Interesting.
Oh, sorry, Lil, my connection froze, or one of our connections froze. Sorry, I lost you when you said you came from Fast Food Nation. Would you mind just repeating what you said?
Well, I come from fast food nation. I came from that world, so I know it very well. I started doing this fast food nation when I was 15. So I'm 65 now, and I've been in the restaurant business for over 40 years. So it's kind of cool because I've got to see this eagle's eye view of food systems and trends and health and all this stuff happening through the years. And one of my biggest aha moments was when we opened the Monkey. Shortly after, it was like a year later, we were just starting to see all the stomach issues coming, the gluten blow-ups and all that. So I started to deep dive into what the hell was going on, because all chefs throughout North, we're all going, what's going on here? What is happening? And the gut is blowing up. So I done some big time, kind of dove into find out, the dwarfing of the wheat, and I was studying that, and I thought, okay, that must be it because there's more gluten, and that's why they're blowing it up. It's not like our grandparents used to eat. Then I went on tour with a GMO scientist who came out of retirement. That was really something. He basically fell in love with an organic herbologist. Don't you love love? I love love.
Amazing.
So, God love her. So, and he came out of retirement to talk about the effects of glyphosate. And he did a cross Canada tour, and I helped him put a Atlantic tour together, and I took a week off work and went with him, and blew my mind. Blew my mind. I couldn't even sleep for 2 days. Like we were away, and I said, I can't. What he was talking about, the glyphosate, the effects of glyphosate that has on the gut microbiome, and the mental, issues where it was an industrial pipe cleaner. It is a patented antibiotic, all these things that glyphosate is. So if I had one wish in the world, that I would like to wish that off the planet. I mean, just I want out of Nova Scotia. So we're actually we're working on that actually.
You're working on getting glyphosate out of Nova Scotia?
Yeah, we
Amazing.
are.
So tell me more about that, please.
Well, I actually we actually resurrected a thing called the Dirt Gang. It's kind of a fun dirt gang. We're the Dirt Gang.
Sure.
We were, yeah, it's kind of a fun name. Well, it actually was born because Elliot Page and I, almost 10 years ago, did a conference on biosolids. We attacked that they were going to be spreading biosolids, which are very toxic and dangerous, and
Yeah,
giving it to
I
farmers.
remember that.
As you,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we don't want biosolids around
No,
our children or
no,
anywhere.
no, they're really gross.
No. Yes, very gross. So we fought that and we had a conference and it was very successful and we got a moratorium on for a year and we brought some experts up, EPA experts from the United States. Fantastic conference. People showed up. It was amazing. And I must say, our Dr. David Livingston said, he was from the South. He said, well, I do believe he speaks all over the world about biosolids. He said, I do believe I talked about biosolids all over the world, but I think you're the only one that ever had an actual biosolid conference. I think you're the only biosolid conference in the world today that we had in Nova Scotia.
Man, oh man.
Yeah, so through that
Amazing.
we kind of decided, the soil and the dirt is the life of the earth. It's the life of us. We are only as healthy as our soil. So we decided to do something. Let's get a dirt gang association together. So we're a nonprofit. We just we got this thing rolled out again. We just did it. So I'm the chair and I have a couple people with me. And so we're going to go out and be educational. And so it's kind of a map on what's all the issues in Nova Scotia. Everybody's fighting everything, gold mining and glyphosate spraying and all these things that we're all trying to we have all these I call them invasive species coming into Nova Scotia and affecting us. you know so that's what it feels like to me. So the dirt gang, so we're going to be working on yes, I just actually went into the woods last week with a couple of really cool people into Pugwash because it's one of the areas that they're going to be spraying now in the forests. So they still want to spray the forests of Nova Scotia
With glyphosate.
with glyphosate,
Yeah.
which is kills everything, kills,
Yeah.
and of course the animals don't know. And there's a little tiny sign they have on in the forest that says, we're spraying. Oh, by the way, don't eat the berries till next year. Well,
Wow.
nobody knows that. No, the animals don't know that. The kids don't know that. I mean, it's really insane to spray toxic things from the air.
Yeah. And then they get into the waterways and then rain on other parts of the province where, it was not originally sprayed and gets into everything everywhere. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So right now with the Dirt Gang, is it just kind of early, are there any is it kind of early or just getting the fires reignited, or are there like specific initiatives that people can check out or support if they're interested in learning more about that?
Well, you can always get on the website. We just built it. My friend built it, and we're not websiters, so it's little little raw, but we're good. We're getting going. But we did form the Coastal Coalition, and trying to fight and get the Coastal Coalition going back. So we were tapping into that. I'm a big fighter against open pen salmon. That's a big one for me. People need to be educated on open pen farm salmon, and we're the Wooden Monkey's never had farm salmon. We've never had it once in 20 years at the restaurant, not one. Because if I do my homework, I see the
Mhm.
food coming in and go, no, it's too toxic. I can't serve
Yeah,
that to a
a
customer.
lot of chemicals in there.
It's a lot of chemicals. So we do have farm land-based salmon now, which is definitely cleaner. So yeah, we're probably going to dip into the glyphosate argument fight now, and so people can just get on the website and just check us out. You can send us an email if you want to get involved for sure. We could use all the warriors, all the good people we can find. We'll take you all.
Amazing. Well, I'll put the website in the show notes, and if folks are
Sure.
interested, that's great. I did just want to let you know too that uh, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and I, we actually were at the event the folks had at Acadia with the GMO scientist, and it was just it was just awesome. Yeah, I learned so much about glyphosate that day, and like I already knew it wasn't good, but I was like, oh man, I learned so much. It was like a CE event. Like it was just awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for putting that on because yeah, super yeah, and like just added more information into my tool bag. And I mean, you probably know the name Stephanie Seneff. I'm
Hmm.
assuming.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so she's lectured at a bunch of the conferences that I've been at over time. She kind of does the complex chronic illness circuit, and yeah, just like I'm listening to her lecture, I'm like, oh, like I already knew that from the Acadia guy. So, anyways, it was yeah, it was great.
I'm
So
so glad you were there. I
yeah,
can't believe you're there.
wonderful.
I'm so happy. Oh, we need more doctors like you.
Well, you. Yeah, no, it was wonderful. So I appreciate you putting that on, and yeah, I'm great that you're reigniting the Dirt Gang. So I'll have
Yeah.
to check out the website myself.
Yep.
Um, Circling back to the wooden monkey, so we're definitely on a tangent a little bit. It's all good stuff. Just wondering where did the name come from, by the way? My kids are always asking like, why do they call it the wooden monkey? It's like I don't know. There's a lot of wood in there, and there's pictures of monkeys, but yeah, where did the name come from?
Well, when I was trying to get the restaurant open because I was so frantic about all the stuff, I didn't quite have a name at the time. And so I was building the monkey and we were trying to get it going. And then my friend John Dalton came in, who was with Big Life Whole Foods. Fantastic. We buy all his porridge bread. And he said, "I check this out, read this. It's the Chinese calendar year of the wooden monkey." And I said, "Oh, I didn't even, I didn't know what that was." And I read it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is me. That is exactly how the restaurant was born, was that. It was so bang on. I'm like, no, I'm the wooden monkey." And it was really like I signed the lease this like the second week in February, which I think the calendar year starts. And it was all about, almost going after ungraspable stuff, really hard stuff. But if you decide to go after this stuff, it's going to be with speed, which it was. My restaurant was with speed. It'll be with speed, but the monkey will help you. So, put your hat on, put your fear in your pocket because the monkey's gonna let you're gonna fly through this. And it's about, women stepping out. So it was just I was like, "Oh my gosh," like I almost signed the lease when it started. So it was, and I ended up finding out it was the year of the wooden green monkey. So it's even better.
Even better. It's even
I
better.
know, I know, it was great.
Cool.
Oh,
Well, that's a great backstory. That's awesome.
good.
Um, so one thing I've wondered about, and especially where it's just so great that you support all these small farms and have this synergy going and everything. And one thing I mentioned in the intro that I recorded before we started chatting was that despite the fact that it's very like high end, like high quality food, like it's great, and just so folks know, if you haven't been to the Wooden Monkey, like it's got a lovely atmosphere. It's not like a little like hole in the wall in a strip mall. Nothing against strip malls or anything, but like it's really lovely inside, both locations, really beautiful. So despite the fact it's like, a very, lovely ambience, I'm sure that the rent is not cheap in downtown Halifax or right on Alderley Lane there in Dartmouth. Great quality food. Like you don't have an exorbitant price point. Things are priced like, very well. I was saying like, I don't eat at Montana's, but anyways, I have in the past and everything. It's like, Montana's, Jack Astor, like they're like on par with these other, chain restaurants that are, purchasing their mass-produced food and everything. So I'm just wondering how do you remain competitive price-wise with despite all the great bonus attributes of the food that you offer, Lil?
Wow, that's a really big one. I wish my business partner Christine was here. She'd be like, "It is such a challenge. It's a real challenge, but the commitment really is to have this quality food and to make it affordable." And I thank you for saying that because we sometimes get like, "Oh, we're so expensive." I'm like, but the food quality is so far, so up there. And it is, it's really hard to do this. I think the reason why we're still in business is like our profit margins aren't crazy. As long as everybody gets a paycheck and we all get paid, farms get paid, everybody's good, good. Okay, we're fine. So, it's definitely a struggle, but it's what I chose and it's really a commitment, but it's also profitable. People can make, I when we first started this business, everybody said you won't last 6 months. You can't buy all this farm food, and you can't buy, and we don't have any white sugar. All our flours are organic. All our grains are organic because I don't want them from like the glyphosate spray. So I'm trying to keep my customers healthy and happy. the healthier they are, the more they'll come in and spend money. So
Win-win.
that's my business. I think that's a good one. We even went as far, and my business partner, who's she's the one, she's the dollars and cents, and I'm the vision and the I'm the one that controls the food. Like everything has to come to me first, and I have to say yes or no. But one day I said, we need to. I'm going to order a barrel of canola oil, GMO-free canola oil from Germany. She said, what? What are you doing? Because I just got off that tour and I said, I just can't have any GMO stuff in the restaurant. And we didn't anyway, but it was, every restaurant in North America has jugs of canola oil in their restaurant. That's the oil to use in restaurants. So it's really a struggle. And we did. And you can't get hardly ever, you can't get, of course, Monsanto took over and hijacked the canola oil industry in Canada. That's our oil. That's why it's called canola oil. It's Canada. It's canola oil. We
Oh,
invented it.
didn't know that. Okay.
That's our oil, and it's all over the world. And Monsanto, because it's an amazing oil to use cooking, and it can handle high heat and it's
Yeah.
no big taste. It became a restaurant gem all over the world. And so they went, oh, great, we'll GMO it and make lots of money. So it's sad that in Canada that we lost our oil and that you can't get any organic, or you can't get any organic or non-GMO oil. Very rarely find it. They're starting now because we're asking for it, but it's tough. So yeah, it's tough because I say these things to my business partner and she says, oh my God, we're never gonna make it. Gonna make it. And I said, oh well, we'll make it. And we do. So, and she's good too. So
Fair. That's good. Yeah. It's good to have like, the visionary and like the down to earth money, concerned partner. You probably yin and yang complementing each
yeah,
other well by the sounds of
yeah,
it. It's good.
yeah.
So maybe on that note, it's a good segue to this next question, just to have like the realisticness here and all the cards on the table. But if someone was listening to this podcast and they're thinking like, I have a restaurant and I'd like to switch to like more of a monkey model, shall we say, or if someone's thinking like I want to start a restaurant at some point, but this kind of model sounds good to me. Like, um, it sounds like you've got it, pretty well dialed in after 20 years, which is awesome. You have all these relationships formed. Um, how would somebody do it from the ground up? Would they have to go around and like meet all the farmers and all that, or like how would you ever do it if you had to do it all over again?
Oh my gosh. Well, it is a wonderful industry to be in. And I tell people all the time, it is the way to go because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they really do care about their food. And and the taste makes a difference when you're serving them real chicken and real beef. But I've said to the restaurant industry years ago, to the restaurant association when I first opened, I said, hi, there was an AGM, and I said, oh, can I use the microphone for a minute? They're like, oh, here we go. So I said, the Wooden Monkey, I have a supplier list started if anybody wants it. And I encourage restaurants to buy the way we're buying, even if you can get, eggs or meat or something, just start, help. I'm always saying that. But I would definitely encourage people. And if they wanted to call me, I'll talk to them, sit down and go through that. I'll share our farmers list and absolutely. And there's farmers out there just waiting to grow for restaurants. It would be just wonderful. Restaurants can change the food system of Nova Scotia. We get a lot of power. We buy a lot of food. We could really make a huge impact because I just saw the impact that we make. I'm like, we get more restaurants on board, it would be great. So yeah, I'd be encouraging. You have to have a good gut for this industry because it's very vulnerable. It's a tough industry, but yeah, make sure you know what you're doing though. Make sure you're a waitress or you have some experience before you ever get in this industry. It's really a tough one, but I love it.
Good. Yep. You were built for it apparently. So that's
Yeah.
good. I'm just, I guess maybe a two-part question. Like one is just dovetailing on what you said. Like, are there any, I don't know, any initiatives or anyone kind of going out to restaurants saying like say from a farmers association or something saying like, hey, like, will you buy from us, locally? Like, are there Nova Scotia farmers like approaching restaurants? Yeah, maybe I'll just ask that and I'll follow up with another question after you answer that one, please.
Yeah, well, I think farmers are really busy farming and they don't really they're not really good sellers for themselves. And so, I find restaurants really need to go. I meet my farmers at farmers markets. And then I ask farmers about, can you introduce me to another farmer? Like we really, that's where you go to the farmers. That's unfortunately you have to do that. But there's a wonderful initiative that I love and I support, and I'm an investor in this, a shareholder, is called Farm Works. Farm Works. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I
It
haven't.
is just beautiful. So Linda Best is, her last name is Best because she is the best. She is one of my big time mentors. And it's a CEDIF, it's a Community Investment Development Fund. And you can actually buy your RSPs through this. You actually get you get your RSP discount, but you also get something like an extra 38% credit to your taxes because you're investing in Nova Scotia. And all the money that we put forward, that we buy RSPs, goes towards anybody that wants to open a business. They have to apply, anything to do with food. And there's so many people in Nova Scotia and in downtown Halifax that have gone through FarmWorks. We're our own bank. We didn't have that at the Monkey. All banks said no to us. Nothing. We didn't said no to me. So I had to, like, beg, borrow, and didn't steal, but put some craziness together to get this thing going. I wouldn't believe it. That's a whole funny story there. But FarmWorks is really like Big Spruce from Cape Breton, the canteen downtown, the Cottage Cafe, the Lawrencetown Beach Cafe. There's restaurants all over HRM that have borrowed money from FarmWorks, from farms to, and it is, I throw everybody that way that's looking to get in the food industry from anything. FarmWorks is really an amazing loan company, and the money just goes right back into it. And it's all about building food security for Nova Scotia. It's just amazing. They won a innovative award in Canada. They're amazing. And
Wow.
it's something, I think they've loaned over $2 or $3 million now, and we pay them back. If I was going to open something else, I would definitely borrow my money from FarmWorks.
Cool. That's great.
Yep.
I'm just okay. We're kind of running a little bit short on time here, so I'm trying to think of prioritizing questions here. So I guess the one,
Sure.
maybe just quick question. Say someone was listening to this, they own a restaurant, they're like, well, I don't want to go like full monkey on this. I'm gonna just start using the wood monkey as a verb, I guess. I don't want to go full monkey, but like I wouldn't mind just maybe offering like a, grass finished steak on my menu, that was produced by local farmers, just to like start dipping my toe into that. Like, would that be a viable thing to do? Like just, if,
Uh, Absolutely. Absolutely. I really encourage them to start that way, is to
Mhm.
do their weekend specials and just see
Right,
how the specials go and to see
right,
how it flies out the door. And
right.
I have met with some restaurant owners and from pubs that wanted to meet with me and basically said, "Hey, Lil, I didn't really care about the environment." This is one guy. "I didn't really care about the environment and climate change. I really don't care. But then I had a baby." And then I kind of changed my life. And I said, "Okay, good. That's good." Because I'm all about, like, whatever you do is great. Like, just ease it out. You can't turn a ship around that fast. It took me a long time because I came from fast food nation.
Hmm.
So I said there's a lot of tricks that we can do too to help with the environment. At the Wooden Monkey now we have a water by request only.
Right.
All restaurants, yeah, and all restaurants give this, glass of water to everybody, and it's a massive amount of waste, like so much water, but also all these chemicals and energy. There's a lot of water that's to move water under the city. It takes a great amount of power, a lot of cogs, and so there's and that way I said, well, you're saving water bills, and you're upping your sales because people are drinking more local beers, and the same as take-home containers. I said, one guy, "Get rid of that styrofoam." I said, when I opened the Monkey, I said, well, for a takeout plate, I said, okay, for a takeout, you can have a free paper plate. This is what we first did 20 years ago. Free paper plate with tin foil, or for 25 cents buy a environmental, clamshell that's biodegradable.
Hmm.
Everyone said, "I'll do the clamshell." So now I'm not buying any to go. You don't have to, "Oh, I like that," he said. I said, "Yeah." So there's a lot of cool little tricks that are good for business and good for the bottom line and good for the planet. So
Yeah.
yeah, I encourage specials, meat, great fish. Yes.
Cool. Amazing. Okay. Another, maybe just two more quick questions if you still have time.
I got lots of time.
You got lots of time.
I'm at the
Okay, good.
farm.
Okay. Wonderful. I got to get home for dinner so I can help my wife with
Yeah,
the kids, but we'll do two more quick ones. Everybody will be happy.
sure.
Um,
Yep.
so I've had this thought, and I'm not. My wife would kill me if she thought I was ever thinking of starting up any kind of a restaurant. I've got way too much going on, so I'm not actually thinking of doing this. But I just daydream sometimes and think like if someone would just start up like a fast food restaurant that was, like, oh, it's, ethically raised, non-feedlot, burgers and, chicken sandwiches and this and that. And it's like, how wonderful would that be? And I'm just wondering, like, knowing everything that you know, like where you're doing I mean, your service is very efficient at your restaurants, but like it's more slow food than fast food, sit down restaurant style. Um, would that be at all feasible, or is it like, no, that's just not going to work on a fast food level?
You are hitting my heart. 20 years ago, I've been wanting to do that for like 30 years before the monkey.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I mean, like phrase, I'm from fast food nation, so I know how it works.
Hmm.
And I mean, I've had a dream of having little monkeys.
Hmm.
We have big monkeys, but I want little monkeys, and I would love to do. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be great. I mean, when I like yourself, I mean, I want to go out. I want to have a good. I love burgers. I'm having burgers for supper
Hmm.
tonight,
Hmm.
and so yes, I think that would be a wonderful business. I would love to do it. If I was younger, I would take that on. Maybe I still will.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that would be great. I would love to. I'd love to do that next to the big takeout, guys. I've always wanted to have. My son owns two cafes, and he does great flour, and he's got Laughing Well coffee, and he's doing good things. He's got the same initiatives that I have, and so I'm really proud of him. And that's why we have a farm. We're going to start growing our own food for the
Hmm.
restaurant, and
Wow.
we're going to kick it up. We're going to kick it up even more.
Amazing.
So look out. But yeah, so I even thought it'd be great to have these little cafes for the same thing next to other, the big cafes or the big coffee companies that don't have fair trade organic coffee, which is the only coffee to drink.
Yeah. In this day and
Oh my
age,
God.
like, why would you
Oh,
ever not offer that, right? And yet
yeah.
they don't. Yep.
Well, I had a quick little story talking about bananas. You were saying about bananas. And I've done some traveling through the world my whole life too, and gone to some farmers and gone to Africa on a food thing, done some craziness, but all good, all farm driven and food driven. And I was at the grocery store a few years ago, and this woman was standing next to bananas, and she said, and there was organic bananas there, and there's regular bananas, and I said she picked up the regular, and I'm always looking for a moment to. I'm such a preacher. I said, oh, I said, look, these bananas are only 10 cents more a pound or 20 cents more. And she said, I know I can't help myself. She said, "Oh, first of all, she's looking at me like, who are you?" I said, "Oh, hi. I'm just, And she said, "Oh, I buy them sometimes, but I don't worry about organic bananas because they have a skin on them." I said, "Well, actually, it goes a little farther than that." I said, "Well, the reason why I do that," I said, because there's two banana plantations, and they're down in Central America. And I said, there's one banana plantation. They spray them, so because they spray, they chop all the trees down, all the birds fly away. There's no insects. They spray like crazy, and it's really quiet. And there's a gentleman, which I have a picture of, a farmer leaning over with his kid with his hat because there's a plane coming in to spray more stuff over the crop. And they have rashes, and it's not a very nice place to work. Down the other place is an organic plantation down there. They don't chop the trees down. And so the birds are singing, and the animals are healthy, and the rivers are cleaner, and people get a fair price, for their bananas, and they fair wage. And I said, so I go back and ask these farmers at the other plantation, if you're going to say something to Canadians, what would you say? And they said, you know what? I wish Canadians would buy the organic bananas, and spend 20 cents more a pound because I really want to work over there. I
Mm.
really and she's probably thinking, "Who the hell am I for telling this story?" And, she went, "Oh, I never thought of that." And she picked up the organic bananas, and she goes, "I'm buying those bananas." I said, "Because I try to tell people when we buy local, and people go, 'Oh, I love bananas and coffee.' I said, 'Well, I do too.' But the coffee plantation's the same thing. We can buy a fair trade organic coffee and really support those little villages and those little places all over the world. We don't have to spend buy this food that's going to destroy the rivers and their health and their, the labor. And so there's so much to food. We could talk forever, ever. Like I'm just so excited. I'm enjoying this more than you are. I'm like, I really am. This is like I get to verbal vomit and say all these things that I believe in. So thank you so much for asking me to do this. I'm thrilled.
Well, thank you, Lil. And I am enjoying myself a lot. So I don't know. I'm having a pretty darn good time. But yeah, I really appreciate your enthusiasm. So it's awesome that you're still so passionate about this. It's
Oh yeah,
awesome.
just it's growing and growing. Can't
Yeah.
can't squash her down.
That's good. That's good. Well, the very last question I have for you, because I'd love to keep chatting as well, but I do need to get home and give my wife a hand. But I was just I'm assuming the answer is yes, but I'm going to ask it as a question anyways. Are you familiar with the group called Second Harvest?
Yes.
And is that something that you folks do you uh, donate to them, or are you familiar with them in what way are you familiar with
Well,
them?
I know of them.
Hmm.
But ourselves, we buy just about everything from all the farmers.
Hmm.
So it's sort of like we're not fussy when it comes to what our vegetables and fruits and stuff look like.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. I should really get involved. I'm so involved with so many things,
Sure. For sure.
but that's good. Second Harvest is great. I
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah,
Love them.
I figured you were probably familiar with them. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're our my uh charity that I have on the side. It's called Made Local Charity, and any extra proceeds that we bring in, we're donating them to Second Harvest because yeah, just their food rescuing. It's just so awesome. It's just when you were talking about various things, I was thinking like, yeah, it's probably something that you folks are familiar with. I talked to like there was a wonderful restaurant on in Alderney Landing as well, close to you folks, Evans.
Yeah.
Seafood.
Yep.
Joanne and her husband who own it, just great folks. And I was talking to her about it, and she's like, we don't really have any food waste. Like we just kind of like we generally know how much to buy. Like she said, every once in a blue moon, like we'll have some extra fish kicking around. But do you folks have much extra? Like, do you have much food waste, or do you generally keep
Not
the books pretty well balanced?
Well, we don't really have a lot of food waste. The same thing. And I think it's yeah, no. And I was thinking about like buying the produce and stuff that doesn't look as well. To me, that's like Second Harvest too, but I know that there's about the waste. And we just didn't have enough. And
Mm,
sometimes if we have a little bit, I'll take it to a shelter. We do a shelter anyway once a month.
amazing.
And yeah, so yeah, we don't, and it's always hard because you don't want to give anybody anything that's going bad too. I always I want to feed homeless people or people that need really healthy food, like, but yeah, that's yeah, we thought about that and thought, no, there's just not enough because we try to, because our bottom line is, or the profit margins of restaurants are, well, ours especially, because we are, we buy such high quality
Hmm.
stuff. There's no room. But yeah, but it's a wonderful initiative. I love it.
Me too. Yeah. And I mean, if you're like not generating the extra food that would go to, or if you don't have the food that's going to go to waste, it's like that's great. Like that's kind of the name of the game, right? Like if
It's the
you
name of
don't
the
need a food
game.
rescue if there's no food to rescue, and
No,
that's good.
no.
That's just good
And
stewardship.
and
So
and usually lately, the last couple of years, I've been taking all the scraps from the restaurants
mm,
in the kitchen, like, all the stuff that is wasting, like just vegetables. I'm taking them to my farm and I'm composting them and I'm making soil. I'm making dirt for my farm, and
great.
it's unbelievable. So trying to make that whole circle where I took waste to my farm, growing food and bringing it back to the monkey. So
Yeah.
it's a full, so that's my goal.
Beautiful. That's wonderful, Lil. Well, just as we're wrapping up here, I've got a few links that I'm going to include in the show notes. I'll get the link to the Dirt Gang website. I'll throw FarmWorks on there too, just for good measure. I'll put the Wooden Monkey website on there, and you said Wooden Monkey's on Instagram, so I'll put the link to that. Any other social media links or any other groups that I should plug on there that should be
Gosh,
added?
I'm so bad. Facebook, I don't know. I'm really, I know I should be doing more media, but I'm really not the one. But I think you got them all.
That's all. Okay. Awesome. Well, Lil, thanks so much again for taking the time to chat with me today. It was really a pleasure. And again, I really appreciate your enthusiasm and yeah, really, yeah, appreciate you a lot. So thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate you and thank you so much for inviting me. It was really, thank you so much. I love it. Now I'm going to get something to eat too.
Sounds like a good plan. Well, thanks to folks who listened to this episode of the Optimistic Future podcast. We hope you enjoyed it, and please stay tuned for the next one.